Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, America's greatness and our strength has always been our people. I don't know, some would say we're getting away from that just a little bit because of circumstances beyond our control. Some of it may be beyond our control. Some of it may be planned, according to the views of some when it comes to this administration and the policies. But joining us now, very happy to say, is Dr. Peter Salins, Senior Fellow at the Manhattan Institute Center for State and Local Leadership, Professor of Politics at Stony Brook University, and the author of a great new book, The Smart Society, Strengthening America's Greatest Resource, Its People. And they've got a picture of it on the screen. I don't even have to hold it up. Hello, sir. Great to see you. Thank you for coming in.
Well, thank you for having me.
Where are we today as a country, as our great American country, or the great United States of America, when it comes to our greatest resources? Are we losing that greatest resource, or is it suffering at the very least?
Absolutely. We're losing ground. There's no question that we were for well over a century the country with the greatest human capital. In other words, the best educated population, the most advanced technology in our industries. And I argue in the book that one of the things that added to our human capital was immigration. And we also had a great stock of immigrants. On all three counts, we're slipping today, probably most notably in education.
And that is open for debate, but I'd love to hear your take on that, especially in your role as at Stony Brook and what you're seeing there. I mean, I could start at the elementary level, or I could go backwards and start at your level, where certainly there's no diversity of thought, or very little diversity of thought. You might be an exception to that rule. But where do you want to take it from? Where do you see the problem with our education system?
Well, I think that we have two problems. I think one of the issues that the book tries to deal with. I mean, everybody agrees we've got problems in education. That's not controversial. The controversy is what to do about it. And I think that we've tended to overcomplicate the issue, and we've tended to sometimes chase less productive avenues for remedy. First of all, we have two education problems. I think it's very important to not see it as one, but two. We have what I call the educational mega gap. Our poorest kids, many of them minority, are way behind the rest. That seems to have been the only focus of government policy for most of the last half century. But I argue a much larger number of school kids are subject to what I call the mainstream learning gap. And that can be closed much more easily. But first we have to recognize it. The reason we are falling behind the advanced countries of Europe and Asia in education is primarily because our middle class mainstream kids, not our poorest kids, are behind the mainstream middle class kids of those countries.
Yeah. Why is that, though?
Because we don't have the same educational standards and we don't have the same quality teachers.
Okay, I was going to say, and we have teachers' unions.
Well, they probably have teachers. I think the Europeans are more unionized than we are. The Asians, probably a mixed bag. I'm not going to say that it's because of
well, why
unions.
don't we have as good, why aren't the teachers here as good as in other countries?
Because we take them from the sort of educational bottom of our college graduates. Most of our teachers are trained in state teachers' colleges. And I know this is going to be a controversial area for me to get into with your viewership. But for 10 years, I was provost of the State University of New York and presiding over 13 of our teacher training institutions, which are probably as good as the teachers' colleges anywhere in the country. But the students that go to those colleges, A, don't learn what they really need to learn to be effective teachers. And secondly, those are not the most selective institutions. And I've argued for a long time that the model that we should, follow for recruiting teachers is the same model we follow for recruiting lawyers and doctors and scientists. We take
from the
brightest students from across all of our colleges and universities, including the teachers' colleges. We mainly train them in substance, in educational knowledge in college, and we give them the training to be good teachers afterwards in specialized institutions, or as New York City increasingly has been doing by the school districts themselves.
Does that imply increased pay?
Not necessarily, but it does imply variable pay. There's no profession.
Performance?
Yes, there's no profession that I know of where everybody gets paid the same. Not lawyers, not doctors, not even, believe it or not, college professors. You know, we also have variable pay depending on how effective we are as scholars or teachers. And so I don't know if we have to pay teachers on average more, but we have to pay some teachers more. And there has to be more of, I think, a kind of a career ladder the way there is in higher education and other fields.
Well, it's very interesting because usually when I talk about education and the problems with education, or any of my guests do, we always talk about the other problem, the the minority community, the inner city problem. But you brought up a topic here that is not.
I'd like to move away, if I could, Steve,
sure.
from just the focusing on teachers, because I think even if we did nothing in the way of our teaching force, nothing, zero, kept it exactly the way it is, we could do much better if we raised our academic standards. And I take in the book one of the prime examples, and I think it's a beautiful example.
If you say so yourself.
No, I mean,
no, I'm kidding,
I mean,
kidding. Yeah,
a well-chosen example.
Yeah, that's my stupid sense of humor.
Right, I know. That, and that's the state of Massachusetts. It is an affluent state, and it has been for a long time, but it's been actually not radically different than its surrounding states of Connecticut and New York and Pennsylvania and New Jersey. And yet in 1993, when Governor Weld was the governor of Massachusetts, he created a commission chaired by President Silber of Boston University that was tasked with radically revamping the education system of the state of Massachusetts. And they did. And for once, this was a report that didn't gather dust, that was actually implemented, and the state has soared educationally since then.
Give me one main thing they're doing different.
A group of researchers from Harvard, from their ed school, did a study comparing the American states to other countries, not America as a whole, but individual states. American states. And Massachusetts is right up there with the most advanced countries of Europe and Asia. The real thing is, what did Massachusetts do? And I talk about that in the book. The most radical and important of all of their reforms was to upgrade their curriculum. And that's the easiest thing to do. We have thousands of school districts. We only have 50 mandated curricula. These are come out of the state education departments. So if our 50 states or the other 49 followed Massachusetts' lead, we could radically upgrade the curriculum. And just doing that for the mainstream kids that don't need extra attention or extra resources or even heroic teachers. We could bring those up to the level of the most advanced European countries and Japan and Korea. We could do that almost overnight. Now, the Common Core curriculum is an attempt to do that, and that is a sort of—
That was my next question,
Yeah, that was a grassroots effort led by the governors of at least 45 of the American states.
It's gotten a lot of criticism.
Well, it's got— part of it is, that the embrace by the Obama administration, which maybe was well-intentioned, might, given our fraught political environment, be the kiss of death. They might have been better off if the president had opposed the—
But are they, without getting into specifics, have you seen, I mean, the math, some of the math, the way to solve problems seems kind of bizarre.
I think that one of the problems, of course, is that it's very hard to develop these things on a kind of even if it's done voluntarily with 45 states participating, to agree on how to do it is difficult. And undoubtedly they've made compromises and they've done some things in ways that not all educators would agree with. But the Thomas Fordham Research Institute, which is one of the most reputable conservative educational research shops, has come out in favor of the Common Core and indicated that for most states it's an improvement. One of the problems is this one-size-fits-all idea. Massachusetts is actually not enamored of the Common Core, in spite of the fact that it may have inspired it, because they say what we're doing is better. And I say, when what the states are doing is better, let the states stick with that. It's only for the states that are falling behind that they need to do that. But the important point is not Common Core or something else, is raising the academic expectations in all of the key subjects. By the way, that's also one of the problems. We're too focused just on math and English. Math and English are important, but so is science, so is geography, so is history. There are a lot of other subjects that we have to focus on. What Massachusetts does in its reform, it doesn't just focus on math and English. It has comprehensive higher standards for all of the main subjects.
I got to tell you, this has been an education on education, and I hope people are listening. And folks, it just points out why everybody should read The Smart Society, Strengthening America's Greatest Resources. It's People by Peter Salins, and very enlightening, very educational for me. And thank you very much for coming.
Well, thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Good luck with the book.
Thank you.
Don't go yet. Don't go yet. We're going to come back, folks, with. You know it, you love it, you have to have it. Why do I always say that? Give me 5 right here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Don't go away. Great.